On today's show, we take a ride down to sunny California as we're breaking down the Anaheim Ducks prospect pool with a good friend who knows the team very, very well.
You are Locked On NHL Prospects, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello, and welcome back to Locked On NHL Prospects, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. On this show, we break down everything prospects related for you 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. I'm your host, Sebastian High, the USA scout over at Elite Prospects. And on today's show, we're going to be delving in to the Anaheim Ducks prospect pool alongside the host of Locked On Anaheim Ducks, Kyle Kjer. And together, we're going to be discussing a whole bunch of topics, including Beckett Sennecke and his NHL readiness, Roger McQueen and the overall 2025 NHL draft haul, and a whole lot more to look forward to here on today's episode. We recorded this a little while back before training camp started, so that's why there aren't any updated infos on all that's going on in preseason in Anaheim. But still, I hope that you enjoy the show as we discuss one of the more interesting organizations in the National Hockey League. So without further ado, let's just jump straight into it.
It's definitely been exciting. I think the Ducks have been getting rated the top 3 or 4 of the league in regards to their prospect pool the last few years. So definitely a lot of ambitious names trying to make their way into the NHL. And of course, I want to get into Roger McQueen and some of the other senior prospects. But first, I'd really like to get into this last 2025 draft class, especially in regards to the Anaheim players. Is there anyone that sticks out to you that the Ducks pulled this year that you think is going to be a sneaky name, or anyone that's just you were surprised went too high, or whatever thoughts you have?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's an interesting draft class. Like, I will say, like, I wouldn't say there's a single player here other than Roger McQueen where there's like absolute home run potential necessarily, but there's a couple of really fun swings, I think, in this group. So, like, the one like under the radar one that I'd really like to highlight is a player that I watched a lot of last year. I was mainly focusing on the USHL in my scouting coverage last season. And a player I watched time and time again is someone from my hometown of Montreal. That's Anthony Alain Samaki, who was playing in the USHL last year. And he's making the jump to the college ranks this coming season. And this is a player who skates at a very, very, very high level. One of the smoothest, most fluid movers that I watched in all of my scouting in the past year. And he's a commit to the University of Connecticut, which is also a program where he might have an opportunity to play some bigger minutes within 2 years or so. It's not like he's going to Boston University or Michigan State or one of like the really big hitters. Like UConn is a very strong program, but not dominant. He's also one of the youngest players from the draft class. He's a September 10th birthday, so just 5 days off of being a 2026 eligible. So you're getting a guy with a lot of runway, and he looks it like when you watch him on the ice. He's 6'2", 183 pounds. Despite that high-end mobility, doesn't just have really that like solid base underneath him just yet. Still has to kind of grow that in terms of being strong on his feet. And very interestingly, the production does not jump off the page in any way, shape, or form. 14 assists, no goals in 61 games. But this is one of the more active offensive defensemen in the entire USHL last year. I do not understand how he did not get more secondary assists by just getting some lucky bounces here and there. Like, I think he easily should have had over 20, but a lot of like the decision making under pressure in tight, where like, for instance, he got to positions where you typically see your wingers or your centers have the puck. His decision making just wasn't quite at that pace just yet to be able to keep up in creating chances from those areas. But he was able to get to those and access them like very few other players. So I think he's a player that where you have some very clear strengths, some clear upside. I think like if he really hits, you have like a puck moving number 4, number 5 defenseman, but there's still a long way to go. But thankfully, he has all the room in the world to get to that point. It'll just take him like 5 years or so. But he's an interesting name I wanted to give a shout out to here today.
I definitely noticed him at development camp. His skating was very noticeable, but like you said, did seem like he was kind of getting pushed off the puck a little easier than the rest of his peers. He had the IQ when they were doing like small area drills and stuff, but just that strength wasn't quite there. He was kind of chasing the puck more after it was taken off his stick and trying to like get it back more so than being able to use his strength to get the puck back or anything. It definitely, I think the NCAA route will be good for him to build up that core strength and get in the gym, you know?
Absolutely, it will. Yeah, I think it's a great path for him specifically as a player.
What do you know about Eric Nilsson? Because he is one at the development camp that, I mean, there's a lot of comments on social media about him not smiling in any of the pictures during the draft, and he just seems like a very serious guy. But then seeing him at the development camp, like he was very serious about his game. He had a chip on his shoulder, like he was very aggressive in every drill. He was just trying to win every battle he could. He seemed very much trying to prove something. Is there something there with his career upbringing that maybe he feels he needs to earn that spot more?
I don't know about earn that spot more. I just know that like he definitely is a highly professional player. Like this guy is really like made to be a professional athlete. I mean, also being the son of a fairly long-term NHLer, Marcus Nilsson helps a little bit in terms of that environment at home. And I know his sister's also a competitive hockey player. But with Eric Nilsson, you have a player who's just a very competitive two-way center. He can do a lot of the less like glamorous assignments that are out there on the ice, whether it be back checking hard, getting underneath sticks, being really disruptive defensively. And he's not the biggest guy in the world, right? 6 feet tall, 165 pounds, but he makes up for that with a motor. And I think when he's playing in NHL minutes, he'll be upwards or around or upwards of 182, 185 pounds kind of range. So like he's going to be relatively stocky, I think, by the time he makes it. And he's never going to be like a physical force, but he is a really pacey, high intensity player who makes intelligent decisions defensively. And another guy who's going the college route. And I think he's off to a fantastic program to specifically develop himself as this role player with Michigan State University, a program with a lot of top end talent. Like they went recruiting this year. They almost landed Gavin McKenna. Instead, I think they had to settle for, what was it, Caden Lindstrom and Porter Martone instead. Oh no, too bad. Getting a whole lot of talent there anyways. But this is not a team where Eric Nilsson's going to be the primary offensive driver, right? He's being surrounded by top 6 overall picks at the draft. What he will be able to do will be to be playing around very direct wingers, guys like Shane Van-Sage, who was also a high-end pick by the Philadelphia Flyers this year, to just be a difficult player to play against and connect play between his wingers. I think in terms of that, you have yourself a prototypical bottom 6 center who's just the glue guy when you need him to, and he can play on the wing if you need him to. He can play on the penalty kill, very versatile. I think there was real value for a player of this mold on day 2 of the draft.
Oh, definitely. I look forward to him, and just the little sample size we've seen out here in Orange County. Very excited to see him play. Another guy coming off a Memorial Cup run with a victory. Noah Reed, what do you have to say about the London Knight heading over to the Anaheim prospect pool?
Yeah, like this is another guy who I think really embodies energy and speed. Like he has some physical flashes in his game as well, but he's just difficult to play against down low in the gritty areas. He gets to the net front, has a quick release. He's able to shoot off the turn, do a lot of these things to just make plays happen really quickly at a very high intensity in the dirty areas. So I think he's a player that, again, kind of embodies a lot of what Anaheim's been trying to build around their like bottom 6 forward core, whether it be players that they're acquiring for their team now or players that they're acquiring for the future of the organization. And he's also a player that I think has some runway to discover a bit more offense in his game. Like this was an OHL rookie last year. Like he only has 45 career OHL games under his belt. He's playing in the Greater Ontario Junior Hockey League prior to that, and was actually also under a point a game. Like he's never going to be like a line driver, like highly dynamic player, but I think he'll be able to be a role piece wherever he is. I don't think he's ever going to be like with the exception of like a 20-year-old campaign in the OHL, he's never going to be a top 6 player on any team he plays for, including like the AHL or anything, but he's always going to be an ideal bottom 6er to up that energy. So I think if you can bring that with some speed, and if he's able to maybe like start finishing a little bit more on those like pacey rush opportunities to like maybe become a bit of like a breakaway specialist, he could really find a niche for himself in an NHL lineup down the road. But you're talking like a 5 or 6 year timeline here.
Okay. So definitely some bright future in Anaheim coming up. A lot of guys to keep an eye out. But after the break here, we're going to get into some players that could potentially be donning the orange this next season right after this.
The NFL season is here, and FanDuel's making sure that you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits however you like to bet. Player props, building a same-game parlay, or even jumping in live as the action's unfolding right in front of you, the choice truly is yours. I know I always love building same game parlays because you can just double down on all of your different takes and expectations for a game with your fingers crossed that the stars align and all of them hit together. It really does pump up the excitement as you're watching the game on the couch in the living room. So, are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app right now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet.
We are back now. We're going to get into the potential NHL prospects in the Anaheim pool with Sebastian High from Locked On NHL Prospects to talk about who could potentially get into the NHL this next upcoming season. Sebastian, is there anyone that's sticking out to you?
I mean, I think there's the obvious name in terms of like Beckett Sennecke, where there's some degree of hope or expectation that he could push for a spot in camp. Whether or not he should make it, I think might be another question. Like this was always going to be a player that was going to have maybe a little bit more growing like needed before hitting the NHL compared to other guys selected in that range of the 2024 draft class. But he still took massive leaps with the Oshawa Generals last season. So I think he's a player that could find his own wherever he does end up settling. And the OHL might just be like a rung too easy for him next year. Like I think he'd be the perfect player to test the new like ruling that's only coming in a year's time, where each team will have like one player that they can put under the age of 20 into the AHL. Would have been the perfect candidate for that for Anaheim this year, but that's only coming in a year too late for Beckett Sennecke, unfortunately. I think the AHL would have been the perfect learning ground for him this upcoming campaign. But instead, they're going to have to make a tough decision. My guess is it ends up being a 7 to 9 game trial. We see what he does with the Anaheim Ducks early in the season, and he gets some power play opportunities, and then you kind of see if he wins himself a spot or not. But if he goes back to Oshawa, look for him to be one of the most like individually dominant players in the entire CHL next season, which could also be a lot of fun to watch if you're an Anaheim Ducks fan.
I had some people kind of point out, well, he was only top 14 in scoring in the OHL. Do you really think he's going to be NHL caliber? What do you think it'll take for him to prove that he's a player that should be in the NHL during training camp?
I think a lot of it's actually not going to have to do with scoring. Like sure, he maybe wasn't that high up on like the raw numbers in scoring, but he also only played in 56 games. Like other players played significantly more minutes than he did, with an extra like 10 games under their belts, which definitely boosts point totals a little bit. But I thought he was fantastic last year in terms of just that on puck dominance, being able to stick handle through any opposition. Combined that with real creativity and pace and violence and snarl. Like this is a physical wrecking ball when he gets going. And I think that those are the qualities that are going to have to be really good in order for him to like lock down a spot at the NHL level. I think he could also look to predecessors like Yuri Slafkovsky, for instance, to seeing how a player of his mold that has some of the same, I guess, raw parts in his game like Slafkovsky did when he first came into the NHL as an 18-year-old rookie with the Habs as well. But you have that frame, you have just like blossoms of skill. But how are you able to combine that? And Slafkovsky's biggest problems in his first campaign that also led to some like injury concerns was scanning habits, in terms of like he was always like too late to lift his eyes, and then just like an oncoming hit got hit like an absolute truck. those are things that are a bit of a concern for very skilled big men who are 18, 19 years old, still getting used to the length of their limbs, and where their skill is so high end that the scans just haven't quite caught up yet. I don't think it's going to be as big of a concern with Sennecke, but there's going to be these aspects in his game that I think the Anaheim Ducks coaching staff are going to be looking out for in training camp. That'll also just be red flags of like being able to look at it and be like, maybe the safest thing for this player with his level of habits is not to expose him against NHL level checking lines. Even if he's playing like bottom 6 minutes, you're playing incredibly physical opposition and in the National Hockey League.
Mhm.
Maybe you send him back for one more year, not to prove himself as a scorer, but to build up those habits to make that jump a little bit easier. They're going to have choices available. I would say if I were in charge of his development, I think I'm always in favor of taking it cautiously. I'd give him a trial. I'd see how things kind of click, especially in like a power play second line capacity in that kind of cup of coffee. See how it works, and if it's like a slam dunk success, you just keep going with it, and you try to keep him up to date on those habits that might falter a little bit as oppositions adjust to what he brings to the ice. But yeah, he's a fascinating case study. But I'm genuinely so excited to watch him on NHL ice because he's one of the more entertaining power forwards that we've seen come through the draft in the last like decade.
Oh, absolutely. One concern that I have just from going to development camp and kind of seeing how things were and this kind of rise in notoriety that Sennecke had with how well he was playing this last year. If he doesn't crack the roster, do you think it could create an attitude issue? It seemed like he was doing a lot of head raises and, eyes to the ceiling and kind of slamming his stick. He almost hit a coach with his stick out of frustration. Is there a concern with the attitude and him kind of feeling he needs to be in, or like there could be a burnout there? Or do you think that's just summertime young kid just trying to, show himself at development camp?
I would say it's that, right? I think that, like, especially at that young of an age, the line between hyper competitiveness and like disregard for the safety of people around you with your like aggression or frustration, that gets very blurry very quickly, especially when you're really trying to prove yourself. You want to win a spot with everything you've got, and you're also trying to not just prove to the organization but prove to yourself that like you are worth a third overall pick. Like, we all remember the reaction on draft day. Like, that was not his expectation at all in the moment itself, right? So I think that there's definitely those elements too, but you see this with players like in this age range all the time in terms of frustration and getting down on themselves a little bit, and like maybe the shoulders like slacking off a little bit in those moments. I think with Beckett Sennecke, give him time, he will mature. I think in terms of everything I've heard in terms of like attitude, everything I've perceived in scouting in terms of like body language and like highly important moments in the season, I have no concerns with Beckett Sennecke in terms of being like, where the attitude is any more of an issue than your average prospect. So I'm quite hopeful that he'll be able to take whatever assignment he ends up being given this season perfectly on the chin and just like keep moving forward and working towards his eventual goal. Because I think either way, like whichever way his path diverges at the beginning of the season, I think it will reconvene at the same place in the end. I think he will end the season playing NHL minutes with the Anaheim Ducks. How he gets there, we will see. I think either way, he'll be able to grow his game in potentially different ways. In one way, he'll be able to practice his dynamic skill a bit more. And in the other, he'll be able to grow some of those like physical habits and resisting contact at a higher level. And I think both of those are things that, if you're a Ducks fan, are exciting when you look at what he already brings to the ice.
Well, another player that the Ducks fans and San Diego Gulls fans got to get a glimpse of last year was Ian Moore. What are your thoughts on his ability to break into this NHL league?
Yeah, I think Ian Moore is a fascinating player. Like the combination of him and Stian Solberg, you have a left and a right shot defenseman just coming through into your organization who are already looking like really, really good AHL defensemen off the drop and might be contending for an NHL spot this season as well. With Ian Moore, it's a 6'3", 194-pound right shot defensive profile. You always love to have those in your organization. And what makes him so impressive at this point, it's just he's such a cohesive player at this point in his career. As a draft eligible, he was pure chaos. He was trying to do everything and could just do a couple things okay at once, but he could flash each individual thing really quite brilliantly. Now he's really rounded out his game. He's big. He's mean. He skates tremendously well. He's suffocating defensively. He moves the puck with confidence. This guy is quite very purposeful with his puck touch. It doesn't really waste time on puck trying to do fancy things. He moves the puck forward, gets the puck to a better place than where he gets it. And I think overall, he really showed here at Harvard University, where he also captained the team the last 2 seasons, that he's grown into a leader on and off the ice. And even though the point tally's never really exploded in college, I think that there's some real puck moving upside here, even if he's never going to be like your power play quarterback. And Stian Solberg, I think, could be a fantastic future pairing mate for Ian Moore, if you want to look at it that way. But either of these players are, I think, very versatile and could be paired with a number of different guys in the system. But Solberg is like, he's an athlete, like the like mantra I always had for Stian Solberg in his draft year. And I was really high on this player. I think I had him like top 15 or top 16 on my board going into the draft in 2024. It was always that, like, he hits like a truck, but he moves like a bee. Like, this guy he moves incredibly well. He's so mobile. He's able to adjust in split seconds. He's really quick. He's really heavy. And when he makes contact on a hit, it's Radko Gudas time. Like if you're a Ducks fan, this is like heaven. This is like a modern version of Radko Gudas in a profile that I also think still has room to grow in terms of the puck moving ability, the goal scoring acumen. Like, there's some interesting things on puck as well with Stian Solberg. He's not going to be a pure defense guy, but the defense is really, really, really fun and is going to be a nightmare to come up against for the rest of the Pacific Conference for a very long time. So I think between those two names, and of course, Ducks fans, you already know the other defensemen in your pool, right? Like, whether it be guys like Owen Zellweger and Pavel Mintyukov and Tyson Hines, Tristan Luneau, like the list goes on. There's so much depth of talent here, but I think with Ian Moore and Stian Solberg, you might have like your premier 2 young defensemen in the AHL this year being those 2 guys. I didn't even mention Jackson Lacombe. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Like it is stacked on the blue line in Anaheim, but I still
they're looking great.
If an injury pops up, they're in a very good spot, not only to have a replacement in the wings, but have a potential long-term replacement in the wings who's just waiting in the AHL for that first opportunity to just lock down an NHL spot. It's going to be a problem, but it's a lovely problem to have down the road.
Yeah, and I would love to see Solberg get minutes this year with Gudas and Trouba still in the lineup, because I feel like those are 2 guys that are able to teach someone that can hit the way that he can, how to manage the gap and really control the way he plays and not become a Matt Rempe out there, but more of an actual solid defenseman.
I've always found that with Solberg, and it's why I had him like really quite bullishly high on my draft board in 2024. It's always felt so practical, like his physical implications. Like he doesn't waste physicality. He doesn't go chase hits because it feels good. He does it because it's the most effective thing for him to do in that moment, and he does not hesitate when that moment arises. I'm also excited to see what he's able to do now with a season on North American ice, because this is a player who in his draft year was playing like 28 minutes a night against Norwegian pro competition. Like, he was being triple shifted as an 18-year-old kid, by far the best defenseman on his team, but also many mistakes were left on the ice because you're playing in 17, 18-year-old kid like almost 30 minutes a night against pro competition. That's going to happen. But I think that he's a player that's just going to be a rock solid second pair defenseman for a very long time. And again, I'm based in Montreal, so I like making my little Habs like links, but like reminds me of Caden Gooley in a lot of ways, and that's a good thing if you're a Ducks fan, because Caden Gooley is maturing into a very good player for the Habs.
Oh, definitely a name to keep aware of. Even if you're not a Montreal fan, Gooley's a really fun player to watch. And with Ian Moore taking that college route, there's another player who just announced they're going to be taking the college route, and we'll get into that right after this. All right, we are back, and I have Sebastian High here, Kyle Kjer. We are talking about the prospect pool for the Anaheim Ducks and the pick that Anaheim got first round this year, number 10 overall, was Roger McQueen, the new Lightning McQueen. And it was just announced that he is taking the path of least resistance by going to Providence, becoming a Friar. Sebastian, what are your thoughts on this? Is this the right choice? Is he on the right path right now?
Taking the college route makes all the sense in the world right now if you are a prospect and confident in your abilities of being able to hang with the college group. And I mean, any player drafted top 10 should probably be able to do that. And Roger McQueen is no exception. He's a really special talent and a player that I was a very big fan of this season. One of my favorite players to watch, who unfortunately did miss quite a bit of time to injury over the course of the campaign, but still a guy that was just electrifying with his handling ability, the physicality, the intelligence and creativity he had with the puck on his stick. Like, there's just so much to like with Roger McQueen, and I think that the entire media op with Lightning McQueen at the draft was just beautiful. I had a lot of fun with that. But he ended up as my like 9th ranked prospect at the draft, but still he was in a tier that was incredibly like up in the air. Like I had Carter Barrett 5, Caleb Desnoyers at 6, Victor Eklund 7, and Jackson Smith 8. If you put McQueen at 5 there, I have like no big complaints really. Like those names were just very, very tight for a variety of reasons for me. But I think that with McQueen, you're getting the highest individual upside of all the players that were really left available, apart from James Hagan. James Hagan's went beforehand. In my mind, yeah. he fell. He didn't fall that far. He only took 7 to Boston. But yeah, like McQueen had the highest upside of anyone left like on the board at that stage. I think that offensive upside and now being able to project that at the college level, where he's going to build up the physical tools, being able to create through contact and much more restricted areas than he was in last year. I think it's very exciting. And Providence itself is also an interesting program. This is a program that really harps home the importance of like two-way intensity. Like, you're going to see him really work on the defensive details, on the stamina, on the back checking. These are all things that are going to take steps here in college. He's not going to a program that is renowned for its like dynamic offensive production. I mean, as a reminder, Trevor Connolly, who was a very, very skilled player in the NCAA this past season, was restricted to like under half a point a game playing with Providence this previous campaign before signing his entry-level deal with the Vegas Golden Knights. But still, there are some NHL talents in Providence that you'll be able to combine with. Notably, there's Logan Sawyer of the Montreal Canadiens, as well as like Julius Sumpf, who was just drafted by the Chicago Blackhawks, who just came off a season playing as like the boogeyman to Caleb Desnoyers with the Moncton Wildcats. So he's going to have another very good line mate in Roger McQueen. So I think that there's a lot of fun pieces coming in together in Providence, but McQueen's definitely going to be the dynamic center of that team. Like, everything that gets created offensively will be flowing through him. And I think that in itself is an exciting thing if you're a Ducks fan, to see your prime prospect that you just drafted 10th overall in a position where he can just be the guy on a college team. That's a whole bunch of fun. I think he'll do well, but there's definitely going to be some hurdles along the way with that responsibility on his back as well.
Of course. And what would you say is McQueen's biggest upside as a center and his biggest downside?
Biggest upside, I would say, is just the raw combination of power and creativity. Like, whatever he thinks up, he kind of has the tools that he's able to execute. He reminds me of Quinton Byfield in some ways, in that sense of like, whatever Quinton Byfield got in his mind in his draft year, he was able to bring to the ice. It wasn't always like the smoothest execution, but it would work. He would power his way through it. The stick handling, the reach, the size, the strength, just all combined in a way that those things just kind of were able to work. And I think with McQueen, it's going to be similar challenges like with Byfield in LA in his development, of being able to have a solid foundation in his game where every single night, you know that he's bringing exactly this already, and the offense comes on top. I think like finding that foundation to just be an effective player, let alone like a producer or creator, but just an effective player night in, night out. Building that foundation once that comes, I think that you're going to see some pretty consistent production follow from Roger McQueen, but that actual foundation might take 4 or 5 years to be constructed. He might take a little bit longer in his development compared to players like Leo Carlsson, for instance, who just already had all those habits coming into it when they were drafted.
And with the back, what should be the concern there, or should there even be any?
I mean, look, I don't have access to the medical files. I'm sure the Anaheim Ducks staff know a lot more about this than I do, but I would say, like, when he came into the draft, he was at 100% healthy. And one thing I really respected with his approach and his team's approach to his recovery this season, there was no rushing it. It was entirely like, we are waiting until you are 100% for a couple of weeks' time before we're entertaining bringing you back. Like we're really going to take this slow and steady. We're not going to make the same mistakes that we saw happen with like Caden Lindstrom last year, where he was rushed back a little bit, re-aggravated injury, out for an extended duration afterwards. You want this player to be able to find a foothold year after year after year. So I think that taking it easy in that sense was a wise decision. And if anything, makes me more confident rather than like more spooked going into next season. I think that he's going to be really good. And what I saw of McQueen late in the season as well, after he did come back from his injury, there were still some of the same raw habits that were there earlier in the season. And sure, there was some rust to shake off. But overall, this was a player that was at his physical might. Like he was back to playing the way he played the game. He didn't look hampered or held back by discomforts or pulls or anything like that. And that's what you want for a player coming out of the long-term rehab, especially at as young of an age as 18 years old.
Absolutely. Well, Sebastian, that is all the time we have today. Thank you so much for joining me. Any predictions for the Ducks this year? Who's going to be their top guy? What's your thoughts on the Ducks? Are they going to the playoffs?
Ooh, playoffs. It's possible. I wouldn't bank on it, but the West seems up for grabs, to say the least, this year. So I'm gonna say you're gonna miss out by 5 to 8 points. I think it'll be a little bit painful of like in the last month before the season being a bit of a sting perhaps, but I think that Mason McTavish is going to take a really big step. I think he's going to stick around, and I think he's going to show everyone why Anaheim never should have been considering trading him to begin with. I think he's going to be a real pain to play against this year, and I think that Leo Carlsson's also just going to take another step in that direction, and maybe you see a couple flashes from a player like Beckett Sennecke along the way. That would certainly make things more entertaining for fans.
And that wraps up the episode. So big thank you as well to Kyle for doing this recording with me, and had a really awesome time with this conversation, discussing the different players in the organization and what the outlook is for this team the next year, but also a bit further down the line in 3-4 years time. There's a lot to be excited for there in sunny California, but that's all here for today. I hope that you enjoyed the episode, and for making us your first listen of the day. For your second listen of the day, you can head on over to Locked On Fantasy Hockey, where Flip and Steel break down everything you could possibly want to know to build yourself the most competitive fantasy roster imaginable. That is all. Thank you so much for tuning in, as always, and I'll catch you again very, very soon.